Good. Do you
All
guys hear
right.
that? Good. Yeah, okay, so we're all set to go. All right, so thank you for joining us. It's a lovely Saturday morning. I think our meeting will be relatively quick today. Um, uh, let's see. We want to start off on the agenda, following the agenda, which is the review and approval of the minutes from the April 16th meeting. I noticed one correction this morning that the numbering was off, and so I'll fix that. I had two number twos. Did everyone else have a chance to look at it and make any recommendations for changes or approval? Or do you want?
Look good to me.
Yeah, I think they were fine.
Anyone see anything else that needs to be done? All right. Let's see. So I think I'll vote to approve the minutes with my corrections. And if we have a second.
Second.
Anyone all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, we're good to go. All right. Thank you very much. Next item is an update on the stormwater runoff and watershed erosion mitigation activities. Usually David is here to talk about the MVP grant that the town's applied for. Does anybody know if anything about that?
I think it's been applied for. That's all I really
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I don't think we are expecting any real action too quickly on it. And we just keep it on the agenda just to check into with Becky and every once in a while. All right, so for today, we'll just say that there's no update. The next thing is the project that I have been involved with, which is the watershed-based plan and potential 319 grant that FERCog is working on. And I can provide an update on that. They were hoping to have it finished this week, but it's not. They still have to do some internal reviews. They have the report from CEI Engineering, who did a walk around the lake. Hold on, here's Miriam. I'm gonna let her into it. So they have the report from CEI Engineering that has a recommendation for 6 areas around the lake that need correction to improve the stormwater situation and runoff situation. I don't know what those are yet. They're finishing up their report, or FERCog is, and they will do an internal review, and then they expect to have it to us within a month. And so we should be able to take a look at that maybe hopefully our next meeting. Now, unfortunately, because they didn't finish in June, we're not gonna be able to apply for, oh, here's Walter, hold on here. I'm gonna let him in. Now, because they didn't finish by June, we're not going to be able to apply for a 2022 319 grant for the design phase. So we have 2 options. One is maybe if we get the MVP grant, we could use some of that in funding to do the design, to implement what FERCog is recommending. Or we can, the alternative to that is to apply for a 319 grant in the spring of 2023 or next year. So that's kind of where that sits. And, so it's a little, it's coming along. It's just not done yet. Any questions on that so far?
Hi. Miriam.
Hi, Miriam.
Good morning, everybody. Would you send a copy to the Concom when that report comes in?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Yeah, we're going to need really the whole town involvement in this, or town officials. And, I think that we'd do better off if the town applies for the grant funding or FERCog applies for it as opposed to LWAC. So we'll take a look and see what it says. All right. Any other questions so far on that? There's not much to ask, I guess. All right, the next thing I ran by FERCog was as a result of our hike upstream. Catherine gave us a nice tour of Fisk Brook on April 30th. And, we saw about 3 beaver dams on the brook and the 1 beaver dam that's at the pond. And so I asked FERCog if they had the expertise to evaluate the impact of a heavy rainstorm, heavy, like a Hurricane Floyd or a Bertha hitting the area again, as it did in 1997, 98. And she said that they do not have the expertise to do those hydrological studies, but they're going to put that in the grant application. And so it's something that, can be looked at.
Mark?
Yep.
There's something that I wasn't thinking about at the time, but I happened to be talking with Aaron Addison after we went on that walk, and he pointed out that the real dangerous body of water up there, from our point of view, isn't so much Fisk Pond as McAvoy's Pond, which is the big pond on the other side of Wendell Depot Road that feeds the second stream, which I can never remember the name of, that merges with Fisk Brook, and that's a lot of water.
I'm going to ask Walter to jump in here. Walter, I knew a while ago you were looking at the emergency action plan for a breach of that dam. You were kind of reviewing the study, I guess. Did they ever complete that?
They did, and matter of fact, they just did a yearly update to that plan. There was only minor changes in how that was. Originally, when they first were working on that before we approved it, they had really downplayed the impact to Lake Wyola if there was a total breach of the dam. And I looked at the numbers and I said, oh, I don't agree with this. So I sent it to Morris, and he looked at it also, and he said, that's absolutely going to have a significant impact on Lake Wyola if it were to fully breach. Because like Catherine said, there is a lot of water there. It's volume versus Lake Wyola, it's much smaller, but it's a lot of water all at once. And even just a sunny day, breach of the dam is going to have an effect. If you add to that because of a storm, it is a significant impact, which we got that to change it in their plans. They kind of basically said, oh yeah, it's going to go down. It's going to raise the water level, here and flood these roads and all that. But once it hits Lake Wyola, it won't have any significant impact. And we looked at the flow coming out of there, and I said, I don't see how you can say it's not going to have a significant impact, because it's more GPM than we have going out on our maximum flow, including going over the dam. So it's like, it absolutely has a significant impact. I mean, it could instantly raise the level of the entire lake. I think it was like between 6 and 8 inches. So, that's a lot of water coming through. So they have addressed that at least and gave it more significance in the dam, in their EAP, which also would instantly trigger our EAP to go into action if that was to happen. So yeah, there is a lot of water back there. I don't offhand recall the acre feet of storage or the gallons of storage, but it would be a relatively severe impact to the lake, and especially the areas around, the inlet there, somewhat of Lake Drive, not so much there, but everything from, Shore Drive, not Lake Drive, excuse me, Shore Drive, everything from Shore Drive back down to the State Beach is going to be under if it's a full breach, about, I think it's 12 inches of water coming through there. If that all let go, that whole area, including the whole state park. So that's a significant impact to the houses that are there. And then all that water goes into the lake. So everything that it's bringing down with it, with all, if you're just talking water volume, that's one thing. Then you talk about all the debris and everything else that's going to come through. That's a significant impact. And and then that doesn't figure in any of the storage. If there's a bunch of beaver ponds up there that are holding back more water, and that flow takes out those dams, you add that to it. It could be quite significant.
Walter, what is the condition of that dam?
Well, the control gates are totally inoperable. So its level is controlled basically by the water that's going over the overflow. They don't have a way to, at this point, to control the level. They basically just blocked off what was there in case it failed. But they have done no repairs to the control gate to be able to regulate the water. It's regulated simply by the overflow.
That's not encouraging.
No, it's not. I mean, it's where that would be, really important is if they start getting any kind of a breach or damage, they couldn't do it in any controlled manner, let the water down such they could increase the flow out and slowly bring the water down to alleviate the stress on the dam. I think they could, if they really wanted to. I guess there was a way that they could breach that, but then it'd be an uncontrolled flow of whatever the maximum flow of that output is, which is not exactly desirable either, because that would take it right down to the bottom. So you dump the whole thing. It's the whole thing in a more controlled manner than if the whole dam were to let go, but it's
But not much.
not ideal. No.
Is,
No matter what happens, if there's anything going on there, we have to put our action plan into effect, probably to a level 3. Or at least a level 2.
Where exactly is that dam located?
Well, if you were to go up to the intersection, take Lakeview Road right to the intersection of it's Lakeview, Wendell, what is it, Locks Hill Road or whatever, and Jennison Road, make the left as you're going towards Wendell. Just before West Street, there's the pond on the right. The dam is probably about, I don't know, 30, 40 feet up from the edge of the roadway.
And who owns it?
Right now, it's owned jointly between the town of Wendell and the residents around there, which I think they call it the McAvoy Pond LLC or something like that. Its ownership was really kind of up in the air for the longest time. Nobody was really sure who owned it or whatever, but I guess all the residents around the pond bought rights to it or whatever. I don't know exactly how it worked, but they took ownership of it, and they took ownership of the dam in partnership with the town of Wendell. Thus they had to create the EAP. That was the first time there's ever been an EAP created for that dam.
Do you know if they have any intention of trying to repair the dam?
I think they have intentions of doing it. Of course, it's getting the funding. I mean, it's between the town and the private residents around the pond that have responsibility for it. So I think, getting the funding source and all that is going to be, a significant part of that for going through any of the permitting or anything else to do actual repairs to it. Because I don't think the gate on that dam has been functional for, decades.
Probably.
It would have to be a whole replacement of the mechanism just to be able to, work on that controls. And I don't know. The dam itself, I don't know exactly what condition it's in. There was no significant, flags that said, we've got leakage here, or, a lot of it was, maintenance, getting it cleared off from trees and all that, obviously growing there and roots going through the system is a significant hazard for any kind of dam like that. So they started doing maintenance around it, keeping it cleared out, and they did, like I said, the emergency repairs to kind of make sure that that was blocked up and wouldn't just let go, because I guess the boards or whatever that were down inside were pretty much ready to fall apart.
Mm.
Is there a rating on the dam? You know, like
Well,
our dam.
There is a rating. I mean, you know, a lot of the ratings that you get, like whether it's a significant or that has to do with its impact. So I think it's a low impact, considered low impact dam for the amount of people it affects, but its condition being fair, moderate, good, and all that. I don't want to say for sure, because there is a rating on it, but I'm not sure what it is.
Okay.
I could look it up next time I'm at the station. I could pull the EAP from it and take a look.
Do you think that low impact is an appropriate rating for the hazard level?
Well, when you consider what they do there is they consider the amount of households and roads and all that would be significantly impacted. I think whatever the rating is, if it's low or moderate, honestly, I think it's pretty accurate. I mean, Lake Wyola Dam is considered a significant, impact dam simply because of the number of households, not only a handful in Shutesbury, but the amount of households in major roadways and all that it would impact if it were to let go, and the volume of water and all that. So it has a much higher impact rating than, say, McAvoy Pond would.
Sure, but what you were just saying earlier about the unacknowledged impact on Wyola seems like it might be cause to upgrade the hazard rating.
Yeah, but that's all up to the Office of Dam Safety and how they rate them.
Mhm.
Could I, Mark, could I make a comment?
Sure, Miriam.
Hi. I just want to throw this out to LWAC as a possible resource that I could explore on behalf of you if you would like. But as you probably, some of you know, in Orange, Mass, Rodney Hunt Company is one of the major manufacturers of dam control technology. They manufacture control gates, and my husband is chief of engineering there. So he inspects gates and has been doing that for 40 years. And I would imagine if I asked him really nicely, he might be willing to volunteer to LWAC to do some consultation pro bono, if you were interested, just to get an informal opinion about the gate. And it would have to be with the approval of the owners, of course. But if you want some expertise from a design engineer who has been doing this, is the head of the department at Rodney Hunt. I could ask him. So I'm just throwing it out there.
Comments?
That sounds like a very good resource.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
So how would we move forward in something like that? We'd have to approach the town of Wendell or the
Well,
or the
let
home.
me ask him first,
Okay.
since I'm voluntolding him here.
Yep.
And if he's interested, I can get back to you, and then you'd have to get permission from the owners, of course, and maybe he would go out and be willing to go out and do a site visit and give you some. He certainly could say, what might be some fixes, what might be the estimate of what the cost might be. Sometimes there are, for these kind of small dams, sometimes there are solutions that maybe we don't know about.
Okay, very good, Miriam. That's what we'll wait to hear back from you.
Yeah, I'll ask him.
All right, thank you very much. That's a great idea. Great suggestion. Okay, so any other comments on this subject right now? So I think we're talking about erosion mitigation control, and we've covered sort of what FERCog is working on, what the MVP status is. Is there anything else? Any other comments or thoughts on on erosion around the lake? Okay, we can always come back to it if it comes up. Next item on the agenda is the June 11th Lake Wyola Association meeting. Historically, we kind of review what we've been working on, what LWAC has been working on. Is there any specific subject matter or any topics we want to inform the group about?
I think it'd be a good idea if you gave a quick update on the 319 grant and that LWAC is thinking about the impacts of climate change. I know folks on board have tried to raise the issue of thinking ahead previously, and it hasn't really resonated. So I think redundancy is good.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't know who that was who was just speaking.
Oh, Art Keen.
Oh, hi, Art. I
Hi.
didn't recognize you.
Yeah, I'm using the other Zoom account.
Okay, so also we historically cover with the status of the culvert replacement and any dam repairs that are planned. And so we can do that, which kind of leads us. I want to jump into the next two items
Mark, before you move on, are
Yep.
you planning on giving any report on the site visit that we all did recently over on Lake Drive?
we could. What's the group's feeling on that?
It
Sure,
would be a good
if you
idea
can do it.
since not everybody was there.
Sure, can we do it quickly?
Okay.
Hey, Mark, I think that ties in with talking about, looking at the larger challenges of the watershed. And, my sense of the site visit was that, that's a point problem, but we have a systemic problem. And so you could give a very brief report on the site visit and say that maybe we're looking towards a whole watershed solution.
Catherine, you were going to say something? I thought.
Oh, I was going to say that I have something to say, but it's really more a Board of Health thing. So I should probably just get a separate spot on on their agenda.
Right, and you historically do that anyways.
Often, yeah.
So now comes the next issue related to that meeting, and that is I can't attend it. I'll be in California that day. So I'll be looking for a volunteer. So I'll write some stuff up, and but I'll be looking for a volunteer who's going to be at the meeting to make the presentation. So
Art seems to have some ideas about that.
I mean, I'm going to be there. I can give it. What I'm not able to do is answer background questions very well because I've just joined LWAC.
Yeah.
But Catherine, if you're going to be there anyway, maybe you could take the questions. I'm happy to give the report.
I
mean,
could
I can
try. I mean, I haven't been closely working with this aspect of it, but I can try to back you up.
Or we can give the report and just say, if there are
If you have any
I can't-
questions, ask Mark.
Yeah.
Right.
So Mark, you'll write something up and get it to me.
yes, I will. There's also Dave Green, who's been pretty active, and
Right, he could
and
answer questions.
I'm not sure if he's going to the meeting or not, but we can encourage him to go and give the report too, so Art doesn't have to do all the talking. Anything else that we want this committee to review with the sort of lake residents or a subset of the lake residents?
Where am I? I have, I don't know if this is appropriate to raise it at LWA, at an LWA meeting, but, one of the things that the Concom has been trying to educate landowners about is just what they can do individually on their properties to improve water containment with landscaping and, encouraging people to educate themselves about what they can do to, manage stormwater with landscaping and vegetation. I think would be-
Is this going to be an in-person meeting?
Yes,
So Miriam, I wonder if you could work up some handouts that could be given.
Absolutely. Actually, on our website, we have some great brochures and manuals for how landowners can landscape to maintain healthy lakes. I've got some resources right on the website. So what day of the week? That's a Saturday or Sunday?
A Saturday.
Yeah, we could do that. I'm sure the Concom would be happy to provide that. How many copies do you think you'd need?
I think there'll be maybe 40, 50 people there, but
But some extra for distribution. I mean, we could
Yeah.
get some of those people to be our ambassadors, not only for this, but for my thing has to do with mosquito control. And I'm hoping that people will take my handouts and pass them around a little bit.
No, I think that's a great idea. I mean, and we can, certainly, we're going to meet, the Concom's meeting on June 2nd. And so I'll talk to them about it, but I think we could probably manage the printing.
I would think that you could just do it at town hall and it wouldn't cause an extra cost to you.
Yeah, and we could have our land use clerk do the printing and collating it. I don't know if I would be at that, I wouldn't be going to that meeting. So if we can coordinate this and I could get somebody from LWAC to transport them and distribute them, that would be great.
yeah.
I could do that
Oh,
because I'm
great.
up at town hall a lot.
Okay, that's
Great.
great. I'll let you know, Kat.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing I have a question is this is like the annual meeting. Do they have another meeting like this more towards the end of the season, or is this the one for the year where most people attend?
There's another in August.
Okay, because one issue that I don't know if it's been brought up, I imagine it probably has, because I think I've heard talk about it before. But towards the end of the season, when we get into fall, one big problem that we've been having down at the lake with the trash rack, and we had plans for fixing that this spring. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that before I know I'm not going to be able to do it before I retire. I may come back and volunteer to do some work on that. Is the fact that one of the bigger problems is the leaves that end up in the lake, and that end of where the dam is, typically that time of the year, the wind is blowing in that direction. It tends to bring a lot of the leaves. It's right there in the chart. It tends to bring all the leaves down there, and they end up, it doesn't take much for one stick or something to get in there and end up plugging up the gate pretty quickly. So, and I know most people are probably very diligent about not taking their leaves and just conveniently raking them into the water, but I've heard that does happen sometimes. So if you take what's naturally coming and landing on the lake and blowing that way and add to it somebody cleaning out their yard and dumping leaves in, it just compounds the problem. Now that may not be a problem. I don't know, but if it could just be reminded that it would help the health of the lake and the dam by just making sure that anybody that's lakefront property, make sure that they don't end up with their leaves in the lake, significant amount of them, that would be a good thing too.
Walter, we can raise that at the August meeting, and then we can send an email blast out
Okay.
again around the time that the leaves start to come down, just reminding people to be mindful.
Yeah, that would be helpful, because there ends up being at that end of the lake. I mean, sometimes you just get the rack cleaned out and look, the wind comes up and you see this, this island of leaves coming in, And it's amazing, you know, when you got a high flow, like how he's trying to get the level down at, you know, at the end of the year, and those leaves are coming down, they'll come down in a big group, and you get the whirlpool going, they just go right down and right into the gate. So, you know, we've watched that thing, been sitting underwater watching it when we opened up the gate, and just watch it fill right back up just after you clean it. So if we can reduce the amount of leaves that come down there, that would be a great thing.
Okay.
How can I get on the agenda for this meeting? Who do I have to contact?
It's George Abdow, and I will, as soon as we get out of here, I'll send him a note to give you a slot in the agenda, and then hopefully he'll notify you, or I will get back to you and let you know when you're on the agenda, so you don't have to come. for the
Okay.
meeting.
Okay, and that would be for me as the Board of Health.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, that sounds good. Any other items we need to, we think we should run by the board, the local residents? We got a pretty good list right now. Good. Next item is just to the extent that we know, does anyone have a sense of what's going on with the culvert replacement project? And any new information?
Honestly, I have not heard anything. I know the project got put off last year because Verizon did not get, you know, was not on the ball about moving the pole. And I don't know where they stand with that right now, as far as I know. And I may be wrong because I haven't heard any updates whatsoever on the project, is that they still have not moved the pole.
It's correct. They have not.
Okay. So, I mean, actually, I was kind of surprised because there's a new area director for Eversource, which has nothing to do with any of the power down there. The only place we have power from Eversource in town is up at Atkins Reservoir along January Hills Road. But Mark the guy stopped in the fire station the other day, and obviously I wasn't there. So Mark was talking to him, and Mark wasn't sure what electric company it was and all that. So he said something about it, but then he realized that he called me on the phone and said, no, that's National Grid. They're the ones that are supposed to be doing that. And he said that he may have some way of kind of influencing them also to get on the ball. So Howie had happened to stop in when he was there. So he went down and got the pole number and called back and gave it to Mark, and he gave it to the guy from Eversource. Now, whether he can actually have any influence on National Grid or not, I don't know. But, you know, the big thing is, unless they get on the ball and get that thing moved this year, we're going to be in the same problem next year, because that's a critical part of being able to do any work, is getting that pole moved. And we are on a specific timeline that they can do the work, which is in the fall at low flow season. So, you know, there has to be a push on to get a light of fire under their butts and get this thing moved. Otherwise, we're going to be in the same condition. And as we know, you know, prices going up on everything. And if we put this off 2 years or more, I think we're going to be way behind. I don't know. I haven't heard anything from Becky or even if the select board has got any updates on that or not, but that whole project hinges on them getting that pole moved.
Have we got our legislators on this?
I have no idea. Again, I don't even know where the project stands. It's that,
Well, on the specific thing about moving the pole.
Yeah.
I mean,
I-
could we get some leverage from Natalie or Joe?
I imagine so, but I think the town's going to have to bring that to them.
Right. I didn't know if that had happened yet, but let's
I
ask
do-
Becky.
I'm not in charge of the project.
Mhm.
I'm not getting any updates on what happens with the project. That would be to Becky and or the select board to see where that
Yeah,
stands.
I think Becky would be I have it on my list right now to talk to Becky about it. And Kat, if you do too, that's probably not a bad idea.
Okay.
But I know was working on it, and I thought it was sort of, in the works, but I'm just wrong. Not that it's happened, but that they are aware of it, need to happen. But I'll talk to Becky, and I think anyone else can too.
That project's gonna be coming close to having their order of conditions expire from the Conservation Commission as well. We've been talking about this for at least 3 years, but I'm not
What-
sure the date of when that order was issued.
It was issued in 2020. So another year. But they could request an extension on the order of conditions.
Right,
So it's
and then
just
it
a
gives the
3-year?
town, that would potentially give the town some more leverage over the project
Yeah,
if they
could,
come for an extension.
right. Because, yeah. Now they also have to come back to the Concom to get a new construction schedule approved by us, which
Oh, no.
we had approved a revised construction schedule last fall or last summer, I mean. And so that they need to come back to us with whatever the new schedule is going to be. I've emailed Becky and the consulting engineer, never heard back. I heard that it was maybe in August, but it sounds like that may not happen.
So then they'll be next fall, so their order will be expired.
Yeah.
So then they'll come back in a hurry, but that give the town some leverage over them.
I'll definitely check with Becky and see what's going on, because I haven't heard much about it lately either.
Okay, good. Anything else on that subject? Good. The last item is if there's any update on dam maintenance or repairs. I know Walter was going to try and do something or then look for volunteers to help out. Maybe Walter, is there anything going on there?
Unfortunately, not so much. I've been in contact again with Morris, more so of trying to keep the fire under him about getting the reports filed with the state for the last inspection. I know I understand he's having a lot going on in his life right at the moment. He had gotten hurt. He had moved, he's taking care of the grandkids, all kinds of stuff. But, the fact is he still has a business to run and he still has an obligation to the town. And he has at several times, promised me that he would get it done within the next few weeks. And as much as I like the guy and all that, that seems to be a common theme. Yeah, I'm working on it. You're next on the line. So we haven't, and I did try to pin him down on specific materials what he thought would be best for doing the work. And I think professionally, he was trying to be a little vague because he didn't want to take full responsibility of saying it's got to be this, it's got to be that. He said, it could be just run of the mill, mortar repair stuff that you could buy at Home Depot. And what I'd really like is, to kind of protect us and everybody is to have, if we can get an idea of what really needs to be done and get everything lined up, is to then, have him come down and be witness to what happens, just to give us, a little bit better eye on things and an idea, as he's the person writing up all the reports of what needs to be done. I don't know if that's going to happen in a timely manner or not. Anything with Morris, as we know through history, is not on a timely schedule. Good guy, does great work, just not timely.
So Mark, can we send him a request for status from the committee? Maybe push him along a little?
I think that should probably come from the town administrator or the select board. I mean, they have more sway influence. We're an advisory committee. They control the purse.
Eric, do you think that's something?
Yeah,
the select
yeah,
board
I
could do?
can. I'll bring it up to Becky and see how we think we should do it. But yeah, I would think the select board and/or the the town administrator would be good.
Yeah, one thing that has kind of changed too in some of the new regulations coming from Office of Dam Safety, is now they are requiring notice of even just any maintenance that's being done at the dam. So like if we were to go out and mortar a few joints and all that, they want to be notified of it. I don't think they're requiring like a permit type of thing, but they just want to be notified what and when is happening on that. So there's a whole new form that we got to fill out just for Office of Dam Safety for doing that. And then Miriam, is there anything, if we're just doing, mortar filling, fixing joints on the dam itself, that's not, well, some of it on the spillway would be involved in the waterway, but that would have to be done at, again, low flow when there's no water going over the spillway to do those repairs, which means you get into the, the low flow is usually the colder season, trying to find the right time to do it with temperature and weather versus water flow. Is there something that has to be filed, a
Yeah,
notice
there is.
with the Concom?
Yeah, I mean, my guess is at the very minimum, it will require a request for a determination of applicability. It depends on, I think the extent of what you need to do. Because if it's more involved and it involves any excavation,
Oh, no, there wouldn't be any excavation other than probably pulling out some loose mortar joints and just replacing it with mortar. There's no digging, no touching of earth. It's all on the cement part of the dam or the rock part of the dam.
probably we would want an RDA. And that's a question I guess I could bring to the commission next week, but I'm guessing that's going to be also, we should be, are we getting, is the Concom getting copies of these reports when they're produced by Morris?
I have no idea. You're on the commission. You would know if you get them or not. I don't know if you get them.
I've never seen one.
These reports basically go, we get a copy of them, to the town. I usually get a copy. And more importantly, it goes to the Office of Dam Safety.
Yeah. I think it would be good if we could be CC'd and get copies of them. I don't know, Walter, if you could send us a copy of the most recent report, that just so we're up to speed.
I can make a copy of the most recent one. Yeah.
Just email it to us. That would be awesome. Or you can put it in the mailbox and we'll.
Okay, it would be, I think, at least a year old. So
Yeah.
still, they haven't changed very much over the years. It's the big things that are identified. And now, again, with new changes in the regulations of Office of Dam Safety, before he would just have to put down, the conditions, what they found on the inspection and some of those minor things, or those specific things. But now there's a whole thing where they have to look at the conditions around the dam for, vegetation growth and all that. So he has to include everything now that's required. So, he just forewarned me that he's got to put all that stuff. So I said, yeah, go ahead. You got to do what you got to do. But the three main things that remain an issue is, just the mortar joints between the stones at the top of the dam and some of the mortar joints on the spillway where they just, between rocks. Again, part of the spillway is stone. It's stone and cement. And some places those joints are opening up over time, expansion, contraction, sun drying out and just weather. So that's one. The sealant around the outflow pipe, when they did the reconstruction of the dam back in, I don't know what date it was, a number of years ago, they lined the sluiceways, the square stone sluiceways with a heavy plastic pipe. Well, you put a round pipe in a square hole. There's all the space around it, and they were supposed to fill that completely with, like a mortar mix to seal all that and keep flow from going around there and keep, as much as they could of the flow through the pipe. Well, that just didn't hold up because they didn't really fill it very well, and it was more sealed at both ends. And it's like, putting a Band-Aid on a gushing wound. It's going to stay there for a while, but it doesn't stay forever. And that stuff cracked and fell out. That's a significant part that we can't do. We did have some prices in not contract, but pricing and all that with the company, a couple companies that did that work. And actually I have all the stuff that we would need to really to file the RDA, but things kept changing with that. We're going to try to time it when they did the culvert repair. Well, of course that has been put off. So the other work got put off too. We were actually going to try to write it into the whole RDA or, condition with that, but because they're coming from two different funding sources, we found we couldn't do that. You have to do it separate. So that's kind of been put on hold a little bit. And the third major thing is just the location of the seepage weir. It was never installed in the correct place and it needs to be moved. But again, there's no way to get any equipment out there, and trying to move that by hand would prove to be quite difficult. And again, we were going to try to time that when the work was being done on the culvert, because then they would have a crane and all that there where we could easily reach out, just pick it up, move it and put it in a place it's supposed to be with the least amount of impact towards the, the environment there. And again, if that all hinges on when and if the culvert repair is going to happen. Those are the three major things that have been in the reports for a while and are ongoing. Everything else of the dam has been, been fine. There's a little leakage around the gate. I think that's just a seal issue. And there's always been and always will be a little bit of a constant leak around through the culvert or through the structure of the dam itself, because it is rocks and stone. But we've been monitoring it for years and there's no significant or no evidence that it's pulling any kind of sediment or through. So it's not really coming through the sand or all that. It's more between the round pipe and the square stone and, a little bit through around the gate, but it hasn't been significant to the point that there's been any worry about it. So those are the major points of what's going on with the dam there.
Walter, I would be happy to take a look at it with you if Morris comes out. I have quite a bit of experience in working with some small contractors on dam repairs. And I'd be happy to, help out. What is your status going to be when you retire in terms of the work that and everything and how you spearhead everything for the town over this dam?
I don't know, because when I leave as fire chief, I'm leaving as emergency management director and all that. The only thing I'm retaining for work with the town in any capacity right now is the cemetery commission. I am available, I would be available somewhat to do some of this, transfer of knowledge. The hope was to have somebody hired by now so that we'd have at least 30 days of transfer of knowledge and skills and historical information. But that's not happened yet. I don't know what the schedule is on that, other than I think the resumes are going to be due June 1st. I don't know how long the process is going to take. But I would feel that there's going to be little to no time for transfer of information once June 30th comes along. So
the town's going to scramble a little bit with this dam. I can tell you from working with Mr. Springer about 30 years ago on some water treatment facilities and different things, that Mr. Springer might be a good resource temporarily he was participated in LWAC when I first joined, and with your knowledge and everything and taking a look at that, we might be able to come up with something that would be reasonable for the town to do.
right.
but it would kind of seem like it'd be all on a volunteer basis, but I'd be willing to help with that. Cause like I say, I've worked on some Woolen Mill Dam repair stuff that was extremely complicated. And Mr. Springer has worked on all different types of water treatment facility tankage and probably has a good background in the types of materials that are used for water stop and different things. But I'd be happy to look at that from the engineering standpoint. If before you retire, you could set something up with Morris.
Sure. I can
So
push
that
them to try to get.
so the town, I mean, just to try to help out. And
Yeah, I mean,
because at
I'm
some
willing to
point-
help whatever I can in what capacity I can. I mean, unfortunately, right now, my capacity is dropped significantly. I don't know how many of you know, but a couple of weeks ago, I had an accident here at home and broke my leg. And just last Friday, the 20th, went in for surgery
Oh, geez.
to repair all that in the knee and that. So I don't even know what my status is right now. I don't go back to the doctor till next Wednesday, get stitches out and see where we go from here. But I'm on extremely light duty, pretty much
I'm sorry, I
pretty
didn't
much
realize.
Zoom
that.
meetings and paperwork right now. So my goal was this, if not last month, this month is to, you know, one of the things we had for, at least for the dam, if I couldn't get Morris down there, is we were going to remove the trash rack and modify that and reinstall it, because, you know, one, I'm not here to do all this. I think it'd be, you know, significantly impactful monetary wise to pay somebody to come in and dive that 2 or 3 times a year just to clean it out when we could modify it. We've never had problems before. And with the old wooden trash rack, but now with the newer one, we've had nothing but problems every year. We've had to do, you know, deal with it, which tells me there's a design problem with the design of the rack. You know, if we didn't have problems with it for hundreds of years, and since we've replaced it, we've had problems with it every year, there's something that's changed. So, you know, we were just gonna go down and modify it and see if that would actually work. And I'm still willing to do that, even on a somewhat volunteer basis. But yeah, if I can get you to get, and me and Morris together and just kind of, let's make a list. What materials do we need? What actually has to be done? And so we have a plan that we can put together. We can, you know, send to the Concom all that we need to do and have a schedule for doing it. And, you know, if you have some other contractors that might be willing to take the time to do such a small project as going in and mortaring that, you know, the ends of the pipes. I mean, that mortar on the downhill side or the downstream side after the gate, I don't think there's anything left in there. Last time I called up the pipe and looked at it, I'd say a good 80% of the mortar was all gone.
Yeah, it looks like the flow that comes out from around it yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. So that's something that probably requires like
The good thing about that is
pressure
most of
valve
that
and
flow is coming between the old stone sluiceway
Mhm.
and the pipe. So it's not going behind the old sluiceway and running through all the sand and all that, you know, the meat of the dam. It's going where the water used to flow. So
Right.
it's not as significant, but it still should be addressed.
Is there a way, or was there a plan when you just trying to understand it from an engineering standpoint? Is there a way to plug off the flow going in there with an airbag or something so that so you could do that work in the dry, so that if you wanted what they probably didn't do originally to grout that void space, is there a way to stop the flow other than using the gate so that you have room inside?
Not really. The problem is on the upstream side of the gate. If you restrict it coming in at all, it does tend to run through different parts of the dam through the rocks there and come in all in that well that's on the upstream side of the gate. Like when you take the floor up in the gatehouse and you look down, there's a probably a 3x3 or 3x4, actually gets bigger as you go down, sump like that goes down into the upstream intake. That's all stone lined, and as soon as you even start restricting the gate or the trash rack, what happens is the water, the Venturi effect drops the water level in there down to the point that you can, if you have the gate open a lot, you can see almost the entire gate, and then the water just starts coming in from all the sidewalls and all that. So you can't just like plug the end of the pipe and reduce the flow. There's so much that just kind of runs through the dam. And at that point, then you're starting to affect the structure of the dam, because that water is not coming through the old sluiceway. It's coming from everywhere within the dam. And then on the downstream side, there's a bit of water that still runs through there, even with the gate closed. So it's kind of going around the gate. I think the only way to get that to be dry would be like we did when we did the repair, which is a lake drawdown, full drawdown to the water level below the intake, or build a big coffer dam around that. And I'm not sure what they were planning on doing, if they were just when it got below flow.
Walter,
Yep.
can I interject for a second? Do you want to say something?
Sure.
Yeah, I've got my husband here. He's listening. This is Rob Kibler, who I was mentioning is a water control engineer. Do you want to say something, Ian?
Yeah, I'm just coming into the middle of this, so apologize if I'm retreading ground, but have you considered pressure grouting the area around the gate?
Okay. What's the question?
I worked on a dam in Fitchburg that had 85 feet of head, and they were leaking through the dam, and they successfully pressure grouted it without any difficulty.
Could you speak a little bit louder? I can't quite hear you in this end. Sorry.
What I'm asking is if you have considered pressure grouting the dam. That would involve boring holes through down from the top of the dam down, and then injecting grout under pressure to seal between the rocks of the dam.
I don't know if they looked at that or not. I'm not an engineer. I'm just the emergency management director that's been working with this and have a history of what's gone on there. I don't know if you're talking quite a significant more cost in doing that. I don't think that was looked at or even done on the original dam repairs. I was not so involved in things back then. It may be something, it's always a possibility. I think Morris has addressed that as one possible, but I'm not sure exactly how this dam is laid out between, it's a stone and earth dam. I'm not sure. There's some plans, hand-drawn plans of the original construction back in the 1800s, but I don't know if that's a feasible way of doing this or not, to tell you the truth. I'm not an engineer, and I don't know how much the town has in looking at to do this.
So maybe Miriam, maybe it'd be helpful if your husband's gonna volunteer for,
I hear it too. I don't know what it is.
and maybe it'd be helpful if we do get a meeting set up with through Walter with Morris, if he could look at this dam, in addition to,
Other one.
the other one.
Morris's last name.
Morris' last name is Root, Morris Root Engineering.
And Walter, if we can get something set up, like the gentleman that used to grade the roads up here, they used to come up, Mr. Piapi from Southbridge. He does a lot of mill works, and he's done all different types of dams for municipalities and that. And so him and his partner, Paul Remillard from Southbridge, they have very good working relationship together. They've done some unbelievable work, but they're very fair, and they'll give you their honest opinion as to what can be done. And they do have they do have the low pressure grout pumps that would be necessary to fill those voids. It's just kind of a specialty niche that they've developed over the past 30 or 40 years working together.
Right.
So, you know, but Jimmy's a good friend of mine. He'd come out, take a look, give his opinion, and I'm not sure what the town has appropriated, or they probably, or whether this would be something that could be done in-house, or whether it would have to go out to bid or what.
Right. I know originally when we looked at it, the grouting of the sluiceways was actually Morris went after the company that originally did it to try to get them to come out and redo it, and that was not exactly successful.
Yeah,
We had
they
another
probably-
company.
Those guys were pretty old, and they're from like Quincy or somewhere.
Yeah, and they didn't want to really have anything to do it. And a lot of people at the time were extremely busy and didn't want to, go and do such a small job comparatively. He did have somebody that would be willing to do it again, but it was all kind of trying to time with the culvert repair. So, like you say, we've been working on the culvert repair for 3 years. So it's kind of been the same thing with this, and trying to time it with all of that. And I'll be honest, it keeps falling on the back burner for me because things aren't moving anywhere else. So, how much time and effort do you put into it when it's all going to change because things aren't happening? But I can put a push again with Morris to see if we can get a meeting together and say, all right, let's get a package together so we can get stuff to Concom and get everybody on the same page. So if it looks like they're going to do it this year, we can get the time, we can get it all done at the same time and finally put it to bed. Now, like Morris said, all the mortaring stuff, he says, anybody can do that. You don't have to, he says the highway department could come down and do it, or you could do it, or whatever. You can get a bunch of volunteers. I know last time we talked, we had some volunteers that were willing to help and do it once we just figured out what needed to be done and what materials we needed to use. And, so I think if we get more than just me talking to Morris on the phone, and we get him down here, puts a couple minds together and really set up a plan, that would be good. And if we get it done, so we can submit everything, and when the time comes that this stuff is going to happen, we can go ahead and jump on it.
Sure, like I say, be happy to help you. I mean, I have pretty good talking relationship with Mr. Springer, but he might be a valuable resource with this.
You're talking to Al Springer?
Yeah, Al.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I got a good relationship with him, so.
Yeah, because Al, when the dam, when the dam was repaired, Al was an LWAC member, and
right.
I was pretty involved in that. But he's a very resourceful man when it comes to that type of work.
Yep. Very good.
Okay, so we had sort of two approaches that we were looking at here. One is for Walter to push back on Morris and get a meeting with Terry and a variety of other people. The other option we talked about was having the select board or Becky push on Morris. What approach do we want to use? Or both?
I think, well, Walter probably say this better, but I don't know, we can't even get answers out of the town hall as to what's going on with the road culvert project. But everyone will flip out when Walter and eventually when we don't have a dam, when Howie can't be the dam keeper anymore. The town, this is a big burden and resource, and a lot of information that people better pay attention to as to how it gets passed down. But I would think that a quiet approach through Walter working with Morris Root, and then for people like myself and Al to volunteer that. And if we can get a contractor to look at it and reasonably, and maybe not have to rely upon the culvert replacement project in order to get this done. Walter's dedicated so much time to this committee and to the dam and all his efforts through the years. I think it's a shame that the two projects are getting tied together. And if he's willing, when he gets better, to help out with this, that would be a quieter approach than trying to put pressure through town hall and people that don't understand the dynamics of what goes on inside that dam and really what needs to be done. But that's just my opinion.
I think I'll try and contact Morris this coming week and see if I can guilt him into coming down here and meeting with us. I do pretty good at that with him. You know, we got a good working relationship. And I'll see if I can get him to come down here and just meet with Terry, myself, maybe Al, and anybody else that, you know, we think it's significant to do that, and just do a, you know, sit down, look at everything, hammer them down on a few things that really the way should be doing it, make a list of materials and timing of what needs to be done and the process for doing it, and put it all together so we have a plan ready to go. We, you know, start the process. We got, you know, 2-3 years with the orders and conditions from the we need to get it all done, get it through the process. And then, like Terry says, if we can do it such that it's not tied in with the other project, then we can get it moving and get it done. I think that's the only way we're going to really get it taken care of. But I'll start by calling Morris and guilting him into coming down here, and we'll get a small meeting together and look at this and get it moving.
The last question that I had, Walter, when we discussed this before, and you brought it up, the modifications to the trash rack, is that problem created by the change in the grate size openings?
I think it's pretty much due to the width of the openings between the uprights, yes. And again, before it was made of wood, and you put wood in water after a while, and it's inherently very slippery, so not much sticks to it. Mm-hmm. The problem with originally the rack, the spacing was a lot closer, and it was just, instead of even smooth metal, it was, the uprights were made from, I think it's like 5/8 diameter reinforcing rod, re-rod, which is pretty rough texture, and it would catch everything. And then of course, once you get one or two things catching, it compounds and builds right up. My first try without doing major modifications was to take like some PEX tubing and slice it and sleeve it over all the grating to make it smoother, so less stuff stuck to it, which it did in that aspect, but then it reduced the spacing even more. So the next step that we wanted to do was just remove the whole rack. And we thought we'd try cutting off every other one in place. And I had a air-powered Sawzall that we tried using this last fall.
Okay, that's what I recall.
Yeah, and the problem with, you know, with that is, you know, even air-powered Sawzalls are not made to be used underwater, and you get the you know, yes, you got the air pressure, but the resistance of the head of the water pressure onto it, it just slowed it down so much that it really, even with a carbide tip Sawzall blade, we weren't making any headway. So we kind of gave up on that, and it's basically only 2 bolts that hold the whole thing in. So my next try was this spring, we were going to go down and try to remove those 2 bolts, take the whole rack off. If necessary, use a torch or, you know, at least power tools, and, you know, take it back up. At the time I was thinking the fire station or whatever, and change the spacing of those, whether we took every other one out or removed all of them and just increase the spacing so it's not too big. You know, you don't want to let something too big go through, which is going to cause damage to the gate, but yet being so small, you know, you get one twig go across it and instantly leaves start building up on it, and the next thing you know, you got leaves 3 inches thick across the whole gate, and it's like putting a piece of plywood across it. It just, reduced flow is, you know, you can open the gate 32 inches, which is the maximum, and you're getting the flow of opening it 5 inches. And the problem is it's restricted, so the water level goes down in the well, and all the water starts coming in from the sides of the well, not through the sluiceway. So that's the main thing that we wanted to do, is just try to increase the spacing so we could get that to flow without putting up.
Walter, my husband wanted to say something. If it's okay.
Yep,
with
go ahead.
Mark. Is that okay, Mark?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've worked on a number of dam projects. If you have the gate open and you are restricting flow at the trash rack,
Yep.
what happens is, yes, you get flow around the trash rack and out into the gate well. And what that does is it washes out any of the fines or semi-fines that are between the rocks, and you get piping and you'll get progressively worse leakage. So
Right.
it's potentially a dangerous condition.
Right. That's why we want to.
Now, one thing you could do with that trash rack, I assume it has a flat profile. One thing you could do is you could round it or make it like a cage going out into the water so that you double or triple the area of the trash rack.
Yep. That's something also. Again, not a design engineer and all this. I'm just trying to make it work to reduce the amount of maintenance that has to be done. Because right now it's a significant problem in the fall. The high flow times. I'm willing for any suggestions. We were just trying to find something that would be the least impactful and cost, effective at this point to try to solve the problem. Again, I've thought in my mind there's a bunch of different ways to do it, but then cost and design and all that ends up being, I've even thought of, well, what if you had something that was down there and it was a bigger cage, like you're saying, with a rack that you could have a hoist on it and pull it up, clean it off and drop it back down, which means you have to have a walkway out to it, which means now you've added an attractive nuisance where we have enough problems down there with fishing and all that, and getting their lures caught in stuff. And then the fishing line gets across the gate and starts plugging it up. When we have the buoys out there for safety, every time we pull it in, there's 100, lures and stuff hooked to all that, which makes it dangerous because now the rope is full of fish hooks because everybody wants to get to that one deep spot because that's where the fish are going to be. No matter what you do there, it's always a hazard. So, there's a whole bunch of different things we've thought of. This just seemed to be the most cost effective to try and see if it reduced the problem. Again, I'm not an engineer. I'm not going to say, well, maybe we should build a bigger cage. If somebody thinks that that's something we should do and can design it and a way to install it, I'm all for it. I'm all for anything that's going to make it easier for whoever here after I'm gone to deal with this, because I can be sure if we have to hire somebody to come in and dive this thing, even though it's only 10 feet deep, 2 or 3 times a year, you're not going to get somebody that's going to do it for no cost. And you're not going to get somebody to do that for a slight cost, unless they're just a hobbyist and want to do it, help out. So whatever, it's not my decision as to which way we go. It's up to the town to do it. The town owns the dam. So if there is a suggestion that would better make this work better, I'm all for it. Honestly, I could say if I got 30 days left or 35 days left and say after that, it's not my problem. Somebody else deal with it. I don't really care. But that's not what I'm trying to do. We're trying to work this out to make it better for the town, reduce cost and all that. If somebody has a suggestion and can design something to say here, this would work better, I'm all for somebody doing that.
Is the current rack designed to be cleaned with a trash rack rake?
I don't know what it's designed for, but I can tell you this, that when it gets built up, the hydraulic force against that is significant to the point that, we tried at one time cleaning it from a boat. It's like hooking onto a huge rock and you try to pull it off clear and move the boat around. The only way to do it, and it's how we do it when we're actually trying to, even when I'm diving it, is you got to shut the gate down so there's no force against it, no flow. And then when you pull, we bought special hooks and all that for how to try to do that. You pull it up, and whatever the leaves are, as you're pulling it, they just fall off and start floating down. As soon as you open up the gate and it will flow, they come back in against the gate rack. What I do is I physically go down with a bag and peel everything off the gate, stuff it into the bag. We haul it up with a rope, dump it. We do that 6 times. Then we open up the gate again, let it suck everything in, collect everything that's there, go back, shut the gate, go back down, clean it off. We do that, several times to get that to go. The big problem is that's usually in, November, October, November, when all this happens. The water significantly, we spend so much time down there. So yeah, I don't know what it was designed for, to tell you the truth. The original one was a wooden gate, wood top and bottom with slats that were probably a good 3 or 4 inches apart. They were rounded, maybe over time, and it was kind of at an angle where the bottom was stuck out more and went into the top. I know that basically only by pictures. The new gate was basically steel plate top and bottom with 5/8 diameter reinforcing rod welded in, probably 2.5 inches. I think probably originally 2.5 inches or so spacing between it. And it was left, it wasn't even like round, smooth steel rod. And it just sets in there at almost a vertical, 90-degree vertical angle in front of the gate. I don't know if that answers your question or if that just sounded like I was just rambling.
No, it does. If it would help for context, I can have Miriam send you some catalog cuts from the old Rodney Hunt Company catalog that shows trash racks and trash rates. And maybe it'll give the people that are familiar with it some ideas about what could be done. We're talking about stuff from the 1950s, not the 2020s. Basic technology.
Meaning not super expensive,
Yeah,
not as
it's
expensive.
not expensive and it doesn't require expensive design.
Yeah, any information will help. Sometimes there's a solution out there that's not that expensive, not that, not hard to do. But again, I've just been doing this as, it's not even under the guise of really emergency management. Because I think if you look at any job description of emergency management, it doesn't include diving a dam and cleaning the trash rack out. I've been doing that as a way to help town to try to get by. But unfortunately, I'm not going to be doing that forever. So that was the thing, is that this has become a problem. We need to address it. And, now more pressure to do it.
I'm glad to hear you're closing the gate before you dive on it because
Oh, listen, I'm all about safety. I have seen turtles. I've seen, 24-inch lake or 24-inch rainbow trout sucked against that gate and killed. If a 24-inch trout can't swim away from it, a person isn't going to swim away from it because there's a lot more surface area. And PSI against the larger surface area is a lot of force that I'm not going to be able to overcome. We're all about safety and doing that stuff. I understand a bit about hydraulics, being a firefighter and doing water rescue and ice rescue and stuff like that. I understand the force of water. So yeah, we do everything as safe as possible. But I also understand that's why high flow areas, we try to put the buoys out to keep people from going in there, because Howie has been freaked out by seeing kids trying to jump in the whirlpool that's being forced by that. If you got a whirlpool forming from 10 feet below, that's a lot of water flowing, and a small kid isn't gonna, if they get sucked down, they're not coming back up, not under their own power, that's for sure.
Walter, are the buoys going to be put back out or are they out already?
I don't know if they're out already. I don't know when, again, last year, at the end of the year, I made all new buoys because the old ones were pretty, pretty dilapidated, and, the sun and all that had degraded the foam and all that, and the ropes were pretty bad. I did all new ropes, all new floats and all that. That part is down there. I also made 2 anchors because part of the problem is they were just hooked to cement blocks down there, anchored to cement blocks, that Howie would place each year. And problem being with that is, people again want to fish as close as they can to that. They get their line hooked, and they would actually drag the cement blocks in a ways, and then the buoys would all not be in place and they'd be floating in different places and all that. So what we made at the end of last year is 2 anchors. They're 2.5, I think it's 2.5 or 3 gallon buckets filled with cement with, they were actually screw-in anchors from Howie's, one of Howie's, Tent City Parks tractor underneath. We put those in, and the plan was this spring to go down, get those positioned and basically sink them into the bottom. And necessary pile rocks around and whatever, so they aren't going to move, and leave the ropes with about all stainless steel hardware, so we could leave the ropes floating at a point that they could just in the springtime just take the boat out, put the boats out there, hook the rope to it, rather than trying to have somebody go down and hook the ropes down to the anchors, leave the ropes from the anchors up with a float and attach them. So that's another project that is all set to go this spring. We're just waiting for the weather to get a little bit warmer, and life happens. So yes, to answer your question, there's all new stuff to go in. It's not in yet.
And you're unable to put it in for a while.
Right. I think if Howie wanted to take and just drop those down in place from a boat, he could, but the goal was to sink those down and put them in more permanent, so they weren't able to be dragged around by fishermen. So yes, in a short period of time with minimal work, they could be put out temporarily anyways.
Okay. Should somebody contact Howard just to see what's going on? Or
Yeah, I can touch base with them, because I usually see him. He stops in, or I stop in with him, quite frequently.
Okay. I mean, I can, if he doesn't have, I can provide a boat if necessary.
Okay.
Sure.
Yep. I'll talk to him. Maybe have him get a hold of you, or you can get a hold of him directly. And because I've got the rest of the stuff up at the fire station right now for the installation, the anchors and the anchor ropes and all that, but he's got everything else down there.
All right. I'll touch base with him too. I mean, if you touch base with him and I'll touch base with him, we'll see what we can do.
Okay.
All right, great. We got some good discussions here. We got some problems ahead of us, that's for sure. Anything else on the agenda, or not? It covers the agenda items. Is there any other items that we want to raise? Okay, with that, I want to thank everybody for attending. We had great discussions today, and I got some work to do on the minutes, I guess. We'll see you all next month.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a nice weekend,
Sorry
everybody.
about that. Sometimes I rant too much.
No, this is all important. This is all important stuff that I wasn't sensitive to.
I think you should recruit Walter to the committee after he retires.
I'm getting that a lot from a couple different committees that I'm at. I was told that I can't leave one of the committees. I'm supposed to stay on as a ex post official, and they're not letting me leave there. So I'm trying to get off a lot of the stuff, but we'll see.
All right, everybody have a good day. We'll be in touch.
Take care, all. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Mark. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.